was recently featured in the third episode of the documentary The Vow on HBO. We've talked about The Vow on this show. He actually, and good for him, or was it he sued HBO or was it someone else?
Someone else. A different documentary that was on Stars, I believe it was, called Seduced. That was also about the NXIVM group.
Yeah, check chat, please, Dan. Now, he said, I recently saw your coverage of poking holes in the Andrew Tate narrative, which is true. Now, I've been critical of Andrew Tate, but I think he does a lot of good things too. And it's just not fair. All he wants to do is help a generation of men, and then so what? He's the bad guy? Men need
there is a direct line between there's a direct line between Andrew Tate, his victims, and his fandom, and NXIVM. Okay, it is identical. The methods are very similar, and the output is also pretty similar too. It's just that NXIVM wasn't as popping on social media. So Ethan eviscerates this cult member. Ethan is going to have a conversation with a cult member who's trying to run PR for the cult itself. And I think he did a pretty good job with this. So let's take a look.
That's where me and Mark Elliott agree. Given your commitment to pursue truth and openness to challenge prevailing narratives, Mark said in his email to me, I believe you would be fascinated with my story and the recent developments that have unfolded in the case against Mr. Ramirez. Specifically, 7 digital forensic experts, including 4 former FBI, have come forward with evidence showing that with scientific certainty that the FBI tampered with the child prawn digital evidence in the trial. Keith was convicted of having child P word and, all kinds of other horrible stuff, which he's all innocent of, according to Mark. Also, I want to the one thing that I find really interesting about Mark is that through NXIVM and with Keith's teaching, Mark, who has Tourette's syndrome, is complete. He just said, I'm done. He did my mind.
He faked that, by the way. He didn't have Tourette's syndrome.
And
Mine
is
also,
more
Ethan
powerful
is
than
trolling.
matter. And I'm done with Tourette's, he said. So he asked me, would you be open for a short call? He says, I have no doubt you will be at least very intrigued. Thanks for your time. So that's Mark, inspirational speaker. And I said to myself, I am interested. I do want to talk to Mark. And so Mark is actually on the phone, and we've been setting this up for a couple of weeks. So Mark, whenever you're ready, there he is. Thanks, man, for being here. It's so awesome to meet someone like you.
That's great. Thank you so much for having me. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. No, I can hear you great.
Okay, perfect. I heard a little bit of the introduction. Thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. So why did you reach out to me? I guess, first of all,
Yeah, he looks like Austin to an uncontrollable degree. It is weird, dude. He looks exactly like
curious
Austin.
about your whole journey. Maybe you could start there.
Well, as I had wrote you in the email, myself, my team, we had been researching different people that are willing ultimately to challenge the status quo.
Right.
And of course, the Andrew Tate was one of the biggest stories. It was an international story. And there was, some people like yourself that were willing to at least question.
Right.
With our situation with Keith and NXIVM is that there has been basically one narrative for the past 5 years. This actually started about 5 years ago. It was in 2000. It was in October of 2017.
Now,
when
just
the New
to
York
clarify,
Times article.
Keith Ramirez is the leader. I guess I don't know what's the correct term of NXIVM, and he was convicted for, it was like 7 different felonies, huh? But he didn't do any of it.
Yeah, so I'll definitely get to all of that. What he was convicted of many different things, including trafficking, forced labor, racketeering,
wire fraud.
And yes, although I believe wire fraud. Yeah. Now, although I believe he's innocent, that's ultimately not why I reached out to you.
Right.
It was given the fact that the narrative was basically an international narrative creating this. Basically was a hate campaign against.
Bro, he's literally Austin through the Chad filter. It's just so weird, man. It's so weird, dude. It's yassified Austin. It's freaking me out, dude. I can't look at his face. It feels so strange, dude.
Keith Raniere and NXIVM and the community.
Sure.
Anyone that was trying to speak out was basically vilified. Anyone that came out in support of, forget Keith, even just came out of support of NXIVM was vilified in the media.
I actually really support NXIVM. I think it's super interesting what they've been able to do. I want to say Andrew Tate.
What an interesting take to just even say out loud.
I totally poke holes in that. Like, I don't know if you've been following the case in Romania, but like there's so many red flags that says he's innocent. I don't know if you've been following that.
I haven't been following it closely. Obviously, it's definitely been something I've been watching from afar, as it seems like there's just a lot of similarities in the fact that, we live in a time that if you make someone a monster in the media, it's, guilty, basically you're guilty until proven innocent.
Right.
You then, the authorities can then ultimately do whatever.
Okay, well, but like he was literally guilty in a court of law. Like he was proven to be guilty. He's in jail, for the record.
They want to the person.
Sorry to cut off. Actually, Keith was convicted of 7 crimes, though.
Yeah, the reason I said that is because before the trial even happened, he was already vilified and made it a monster. You even have, even on the Dr. Oz show, this was before Keith was even arrested. You have Dr. Oz saying on national television that Keith raped and tortured women.
Oh my God.
Now, this is crazy. There's not a single charge of violence, weapons, or drugs, and there's not a single charge of Keith Raniere having sex with someone.
Well, let's see here. It's still taking a child. He was convicted of that, right? Because I want to clear his name with you. So he was convicted of extortion, trafficking, forced labor. It's outrageous that he was never violent, and so that kind of says it all, huh?
Yeah, I want to be super clear. There's most of what people have heard about Keith in the media, and then what the government, put out there in the media as well, is, in my opinion, completely false, and most of it is completely fabricated.
Right.
Again, that's not my intent of why I wanted to come, on and talk with you guys. Obviously, if we had longer, conversations, we could look at more specifics and things about Keith Raniere and who he is as a person. But in the emails, why I got in touch with you is that one of the things that happened right before the trial, here you had an investigation for a whole year, and there were 6 co-defendants, and this whole case was about consenting adults. And then 55 days before trial,
it was also about wire fraud, trafficking, racketeering, child. Okay,
even with
sorry. Go ahead.
Well, just to be clear though, even with all of these horrific charges.
But my concern, at least just from the optics point of view, because again, I'm on your guys' side. Camille was a 15-year-old who testified. She wrote a victim statement, impact statement, that said that he actually raped her when she was 15. And she put out a statement and all that. It's crazy. She said she met him when he was 13. And then when she was 15, he was 45 and he slept with her. But that's just, why was she lying like that?
Yeah, so I want to make something very clear. I don't support against women in any way. And
no, I know.
Any of my friends who are out there.
So what's the argument? But like young girls that are 15 is like what? Free reign? Like what is using his words very carefully? He's like, not women. But 15-year-olds though, it's like 13-year-olds, 15-year-olds, that's different. That's wild.
What is important for people to realize is that a victim impact statement is after the trial is over, after the verdict. So it's a statement not given under oath. Well after the trial was over. And she also didn't testify.
You think she's lying, essentially. I mean, or at least there'd be no consequence to her lying, right?
That's my point. I'm not here to debate whether or not.
Yeah, you don't want to call her a liar. I get it. But you know what's crazy?
What I'm saying is.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
What I'm just saying, it's important that if we want to live in a society that has due process and we care about justice, it's important to question.
Absolutely.
It's important to.
There's no trial.
And so So that's my point. What I
There
do
was no
know
trial.
for sure,
Like,
which
why
is
was
why
supposed to take her impact statement seriously when there was no trial?
that is my point.
Okay.
What I do know, which is under oath and sworn statements, is what I got in touch with you about
Mhm.
with respect to we now have 7 digital forensic experts, and this is what's incredible. 4 of
Is
those
it?
7, 4 of the 7
Oh,
are
sorry.
former
Before we
FBI.
Before we go down that thread, I just wanted to mention, and I don't know if this is an issue for you guys, but there was 15 other victim impact statements from all different individuals. So that's like, dang, how do we get over that?
Again, if
Bro,
we had like a 3-hour
how
podcast,
does he?
I can go.
How does he not understand he's getting cooked? Which is crazy. Like Ethan doing a slow burn and just like very slightly releasing the gas valve, just like ever so slightly.